Rian was used to the quiet hum of the trade station. Every day felt the same. He moved heavy cargo from one docking bay to another, checked the shipment lists, and signed delivery forms. The station sat far from Earth, near the border where human space met alien space. Ships from many worlds came and went, but Rian rarely paid much attention to the travelers. Most only stayed long enough to load or unload goods before leaving again. That day was no different at first. He was unloading containers filled with energy cells when he heard a soft voice. Behind him, "Excuse me, is this Base 6? Rian turned and saw her. She was taller than most humans, with graceful posture and smooth, pale skin that had a faint teal tone under the light. Her eyes were bright, almost silver, and her hair fell like a soft waterfall over her shoulders. She wore a simple robe with thin silver patterns across the sleeves. "Yes, this is Base 6. Rian said, setting the container down. "Are you here for a delivery?" The girl smiled slightly and stepped forward. "I have cargo waiting." "Crystals from Varel." Rian nodded. He had heard of Varel before. It was a peaceful world known for floating gardens and rare crystals used in advanced technology. But he had never met anyone from there in person. "Follow me," he said. "Your shipment's this way." As they walked, Rian noticed she moved with quiet care, as if every step had meaning. She glanced around at the station walls and passing workers, watching everything with a kind of calm curiosity. "Is this your first time here?" Rian asked. "Yes," she said. "I have traveled to other human stations, but this is the farthest I have gone from my home." When they reached the crate marked with her name, Rian slid the scanner over the seal. "What's inside?" "Garden crystals," she said. "They hold light for many years. My people grow them under the sky." He helped her lift the crate onto a cart. The crystals were heavier than he expected. She took the other end without hesitation, and together they began pushing the cart toward the lift. "I'm Rian," he said as they worked. "I'm Lyra," she replied. Her voice was gentle, but there was strength behind it. They reached the lift and rode it up to the main concourse. Rian noticed she kept glancing at the large windows where the stars drifted by. "Do you like space travel?" he asked. "I like the view," Lyra said, "but space feels empty. On Virel, there's always the scent of flowers and the sound of water." Rian tried to imagine such a place. He had grown up on a small mining colony with red dust storms and metal walls. The idea of endless gardens floating in the air felt like something from an old story. When they reached her ship, Lyra thanked him for the help. "You are kind," she said. "Many workers on stations do not speak much. They only move things and leave. I guess I'm not like most workers," Rian said with a small smile. "Besides, it's not every day I meet someone from Varel." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "And it is not every day I meet a human who asks questions." She handed him a small crystal, no bigger than his thumb. It glowed faintly, holding a soft light inside. "This is for your help," she said. "It is not strong enough for machines, but it will never fade." Rian turned it in his hand, amazed. "Thank you. I've never seen anything like this." Lyra looked at him for a moment, as if studying something in his expression. Then she said, "If you wish, you may join me later on the station's observation deck. I would like to hear more about your world." "Sure," Rian said without thinking. "What time?" "After the station lights dim," she said, then stepped into her ship. That evening, Rian found himself walking to the observation deck. He didn't know why he felt nervous. Maybe it was because Lyra was unlike anyone he had met. She seemed calm but curious, formal but kind. When he arrived, Lyra was already there, standing near the wide glass wall. The stars beyond looked endless, and the light of a nearby planet cast a pale glow across the room. "You came," she said softly. "Yeah," Rian replied. Didn't want to miss a chance to talk. They stood side by side, looking out at the stars. "What is Earth like?" Lyra asked. Rian thought for a moment. "It's different depending on where you are. There are oceans so big you can't see the other side. There are mountains that touch the clouds. Forests so deep you could walk for days without reaching the end." Lyra's eyes brightened. "And your people, what do they value most?" family, friends, survival, Ryun said. We work hard, but we also enjoy music, stories, and food. We like to be together. Lyra nodded slowly. On Virel, we value harmony. Every choice we make must keep balance between the sky, the gardens, and the rivers. We believe nothing belongs only to one person. Everything is shared. Ryun smiled. That's different from humans. We share, but we also like owning things. I have noticed, Lyra said. It is why I wanted to speak with you. Your ways are strange to me, but they also feel alive. They spoke for hours, trading small stories. Ryun told her about storms that shook his old colony and about nights when the sky turned red. Lyra described flowers that floated in midair, held up by the planet's winds. When the station lights began to brighten again, signaling the start of a new cycle, Lyra finally said, I will be here for several more days. May we meet again. Tomorrow? Absolutely, Ryun said. As they parted, Ryun felt a strange excitement in his chest. He didn't understand why yet, but he wanted to see her again, to learn more about her world and to show her his own. He didn't know that this simple meeting would lead to a question that would change both their lives. The next day, Ryun finished his cargo work early. He kept glancing at the station's clock, counting down the hours until he would meet Lyra again. The thought surprised him. He had worked on this station for years, and meeting people from other worlds had never been something he looked forward to. But this was different. When the station lights dimmed to evening mode, Ryun walked to the observation deck. Lyra was already there, leaning against the railing and looking out at the drifting stars. You came early, he said as he stepped closer. I enjoy the quiet before others arrive. Lyra replied, in this place, the stars feel close. Ryun joined her, standing just far enough so she could have space. Do you see your home from here? No, Lyra said with a small shake of her head. Virel is far beyond the next straight route, but I can imagine it when I close my eyes. They stood together for a moment, letting the silence stretch between them. Then Lyra turned to him with a curious look. Yesterday you spoke about oceans. She said, tell me more. I cannot imagine so much water in one place. Ryun thought for a moment. Imagine a garden that never ends, but instead of flowers, there's water as far as you can see. It moves all the time, waves, tides, storms. It's alive. That must be beautiful, Lyra said. On Virel, water flows in narrow rivers and pools under the gardens. It is quiet, calm, never endless. She spoke about the floating gardens then, describing how they drifted in the air, held aloft by natural winds and anchored by vines as thick as tree trunks. The flowers glowed faintly under the planet's twin moons, and the scent could be smelled from miles away. It sounds like a dream, Ryun said. It is our way of life, Lyra replied. We grow food among the flowers, and we build our homes inside the largest blooms, shaping them over time. Ryun listened closely, picturing the strange beauty she described. After a while, he decided to share something more personal. On my home colony, we didn't have much beauty like that. The air was dry, the land red and empty. But the sunsets were amazing, huge skies with colors you can't name. That was our garden. Lyra tilted her head slightly. You speak of it with care, even though it was harsh. Yeah, Ryun said. It's where I grew up. Good memories can exist even in rough places. Lyra seemed to think about that for a while. Then she asked, what is romance to humans? I have heard the word, but I do not know its true meaning. Ryun blinked at the question. Romance? Well, it's a kind of feeling between two people. It's about trust, caring, wanting to be close. Sometimes it's shown through small things, like holding hands or giving a gift. Sometimes it's through bigger promises. Lyra's eyes studied him carefully, as if measuring his words. Do humans give this feeling easily? Not always, Ryun said. It depends on the person. Some take a long time. Others, they just know. And you? She asked. Ryun hesitated. I think I'd have to know someone well. It's not something I give to just anyone. Lyra looked back out at the stars, her expression unreadable. On Virel, such feelings are rare and deep. They are tied to life promises. Ryun nodded. sensing that this was important to her. Makes sense, every culture sees it differently. They moved to a nearby bench, still within sight of the stars. Lyra asked more about Earth, about music, celebrations, and the way humans marked important days. Rian told her about colorful festivals, fireworks in the night sky, and dances around bonfires. She listened closely, smiling now and then at the strange details. Your people like sound, she observed. Rian laughed. Yeah, we do. Music, voices, noise, it's all part of living for us. Lyra spoke about Varel's gatherings, where the only sounds were the wind through flowers and the gentle hum of crystal instruments. Her people valued silence as much as humans valued sound. The difference between them made Rian even more curious. So why did you come here, so far from home? He asked. I was sent to deliver the crystals, Lyra said simply. But I also wish to see more of the galaxy. My people do not travel often. I wanted to learn. Learning by talking to strangers like me, Rian asked with a smile. Not strangers. Lyra corrected softly. Not anymore. That answer stayed in Rian's mind long after their conversation ended. The next few days, they met again and again. Each time, they spoke longer, sharing little pieces of their worlds. Sometimes they sat in the observation deck. Sometimes they walked the quieter halls of the station, where the hum of machinery was steady and low. Lyra asked about human food, and Rian promised to bring her something different each day from the station's mess hall. She was amused by sweet fruit pastries and curious about spiced tea. In return, she shared small treats from Varel, soft, petal-like leaves that tasted faintly of honey. One evening, as they walked near the docking bays, Lyra paused to watch a group of human workers joking with each other. Humans laugh often. She said, Yeah, Rian replied. It's how we deal with stress, even when things are bad. We try to find something funny. That is strange, she said, but her voice carried a note of interest rather than judgment. Rian thought about how she was always watching people, studying the way they spoke and moved. You're trying to understand us, he said. Yes, Lyra admitted. Understanding brings connection, and connection brings peace. Rian couldn't argue with that. On their fifth meeting, they stayed on the observation deck far longer than usual. The stars outside seemed brighter that night. Rian felt a sense of closeness growing, though he didn't know if Lyra felt the same. At one point, their hands brushed lightly on the railing. Neither of them moved away. Rian glanced at her and found her looking back at him, silver eyes reflecting. The starlight. In that moment, a question formed in his mind, a question he wasn't sure he should ask. It felt bold, maybe even too forward, but it stayed with him, quietly waiting for the right moment. He didn't know it yet, but the next time they met, he would finally ask it. The station's evening lights dimmed, marking the quiet hours. Rian walked toward the observation deck with steady steps, though his mind was far from steady. For the last 2 days, the same thought kept returning to him. It was a question small in words, but heavy in meaning. He was not sure if it was wise to ask, but he could not stop thinking about it. When he arrived, Lyra was already there. She stood near the glass wall, her gaze fixed on a swirling blue nebula in the distance. The light from the stars gave her skin a soft glow, and her silver eyes seemed to catch every shimmer. You always get here before me, Rian said as he approached. I enjoy the stars, she replied. They remind me that my world is only one of many. It makes me feel both small and connected. They stood together in silence for a moment. The nebula slowly turned, its clouds of gas shifting like slow waves. Rian cleared his throat. Did you finish your deliveries today? Yes, Lyra said. The last crates are stored on my ship. Tomorrow, I will be free to explore the station without work. That's good, Rian said. There's a part of the station with a garden. Dome. It's not as big as what you've described on Varel, but it's nice. I could show you. I would like that, she said softly. Her voice had the same calm tone as always, but something about the way she looked at him made Rian feel a warmth in his chest. He wanted to keep talking, but the question in his mind grew louder. They moved to the bench near the far side of the deck. It was quieter there. Away from the few other people who had come to watch the stars, Rian leaned back, glancing at Lyra as she studied the view beyond the glass. Lyra, he began. I've been wondering about something. She turned her head slightly toward him. What is it? Rian hesitated. His hands rested on his knees, fingers curling slightly. If I kissed you, how would you react? The words hung in the air. Lyra froze, her gaze fixed on him. Her expression did not show shock or offense, but there was a stillness in her that made the moment feel heavier. Slowly, she looked away toward the nebula again. When she finally spoke, her voice was low and thoughtful. On Virel, a kiss is not a simple thing. It is not a greeting or a light gesture. It is a promise. Rian's brows drew together. A promise, yes, she said. It is given only once. To share it is to say you will walk beside that person for the rest of your life. It is not done without deep certainty. Rian leaned back slightly, the weight of her words settling over him. He had imagined many possible reactions: surprise, laughter, maybe curiosity, but not this. So, if I kissed you, he said slowly, you would see it as forever? Lyra nodded. Yes, it would mean you have chosen me, and I have chosen you. And such a choice cannot be broken. For a moment, Rian could not speak. The meaning of what he had asked was far greater in her culture than in his. For him, a kiss could be the start of something, a way to explore feelings. For her, it was the final step, not the first. He felt heat rise in his face. I didn't realize. He said quietly, I didn't mean to. But Lyra raised her hand slightly, stopping his words. You meant no harm. You asked because you wished to know. Now you do. Her eyes softened, though her posture stayed calm. Tell me, Rian, among your people, do you give such a thing without thought? Some do, he admitted. Others are more careful. I guess for me, I'd want to be sure. But it's not the same as for you. We can kiss and still be figuring things out. That is a great difference, she said. It is why I must be careful here, away from my world. I do not want to give meaning that is not shared. Rian nodded slowly. That makes sense. For a while, they simply watched the stars again. The moment felt different now, not colder, but deeper, as if an invisible bridge had been built between their worlds, showing both the distance and the connection. Finally, Lyra spoke again. Do you regret asking? Rian thought for a moment, then shook his head. No. I'm glad I know what it means to you. She gave a faint smile, almost like a reflection of starlight. Then I am glad to. They left the deck together, walking through the quiet corridors of the station. The air smelled faintly of recycled oxygen and metal. But Rian barely noticed. His mind was still on her answer. When they reached the docking ring, Lyra paused near a wide window that looked down into the hangar. Ships rested in their bays, their lights blinking in steady rhythms. In my culture, she said, there's a story of two rivers. One flows fast, the other slow. When they meet, they must decide if they will join or remain apart. If they join, they cannot separate again. Rian looked at her. Which one am I? She studied him for a moment. I do not know yet. With that, she turned toward her ship. Tomorrow, you will show me the Garden Dome. I will, Rian promised. As she walked away, Rian stood for a moment longer, thinking about the rivers. He was starting to realize that if he wanted to understand Lyra, he would need to learn her world as much as she was learning his. And maybe, just maybe, the question he had asked was the start of something far greater than he imagined. The next day, Rian waited near the entrance to the Garden Dome. The station's artificial lighting here was warmer than in the rest of the corridors, and the air carried a faint scent of plants. It was not much compared to what Lyra had described about her world, but it was the closest the station had to nature. When Lyra arrived, she wore the same silver-patterned robe as before. Her calm expression softened slightly when she saw him. You came early, she said. I wanted to make sure we had time, Rian replied. There's more to see and hear than people think. They stepped inside together. The Garden Dome was a wide space under a clear curved roof. Rows of green plants grew in soil beds, and small artificial streams ran between them. The air was fresher here, and the sound of water added a quiet rhythm to the space. Lyra stopped near a cluster of tall flowering plants. She touched one of the petals lightly. These are simple, yet they try to reach the sky, she said. It reminds me of home, in a small way. They walked slowly along the paths. Rian explained that most of the plants here were chosen for how well they could survive in a station environment. Lyra listened carefully, asking about each species and how it was cared for. After a while, they found a bench near one of the streams. The water here reflected the light from above, making the space feel brighter. Rian, Lyra began, I have been thinking about your question from yesterday. Rian felt his chest tighten. About the kiss? Yes, she said. Her silver eyes held his steadily. I want you to understand fully why my answer was what it was. He nodded, waiting. In my culture, she continued, a kiss is called a bond mark. It is the final act between two who have chosen each other. Once it is shared, it is a promise that cannot be broken. It is more than emotion, it is agreement of life, care, and loyalty. Rian listened closely. She went on. We do not have marriage in the human sense. We have the bond mark. There is no paper, no ceremony. Only the two people and the choice they make. It is not forced, and it is not taken back. To kiss someone without meaning it is one of the deepest dishonors in our way. Rian ran a hand over his jaw. That's huge. So if I had just done it without knowing, it would have been seen as making a life promise you did not understand. She said gently, but I know you did not mean harm. You asked first. That is rare even among my people. He thought about her words. So if you kiss someone, you'd be choosing them forever, yes? Lyra said, and I would expect the same from them. We do not give such things to many. Some never give it at all. But when we do, it is the greatest act of trust. Rian looked into the stream for a moment, watching the way the water moved. Humans, we see kissing differently. For us, it can be serious, but it can also be a way to see if there's a deeper connection. It can come at the start, not just the end. I understand now, Lyra said. And I see the difference. Your way is about discovery. Ours is about certainty. They sat in silence for a while. The sound of the water filled the space between them. Finally, Rian said, I think I get it now. Yesterday, when you answered, I didn't know what to say because I didn't realize how much it meant to you. That is why I am telling you more now, she said. If there is ever a day when you choose to give such a promise, you will know what it means to me. Rian met her eyes. And if there's a day you choose to give it to me, I'll know what it means to you. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. That is all I ask. They walked on through the garden, speaking of later things, plants, food, stories from their childhoods. But Rian noticed that every time their shoulders almost touched. Lyra's gaze flicked toward him briefly, as if she was measuring the space between them. When they reached the far end of the dome, they stood near a wide patch of grass under the curved roof. The stars beyond were faint through the glass, but still visible. You said yesterday that your people value sound, Lyra said. Sing something for me, Rian laughed. I'm not much of a singer. Then it will be honest. She replied simply. He thought for a moment, then sang a short melody he remembered from his childhood. It was a miner's tune, soft and steady, about coming home at the end of a long day. His voice was quiet, but the sound carried in the dome. When he finished, Lyra said, Your voice is untrained, but it carries truth. That is better than skill. They began walking back toward the entrance. As they left the dome, Lyra paused. Rian, she said, in my world, when someone speaks a question like yours, it means they are already wondering if they could give such a promise one day. Are you wondering? He met her gaze honestly. Yes. I don't know what it means for the future, but I'm wondering. She nodded slowly, as if accepting the weight of his answer. Then we will keep learning from each other. They stepped into the corridor. The station lights here were cooler, the hum of the air systems steady in the background. Rian felt that something between them had shifted again, not in speed, but in depth. He now understood her answer, and she knew he understood. Neither of them realized yet that the next test of their growing connection would come far sooner than expected. when danger would strike the station without warning. The vast chamber inside the alien station glowed with soft blue light. The walls seemed alive, shifting in slow waves, and the air carried a faint hum like the sound of a distant ocean. Erin followed Leora through the wide hallway. Her steps were silent, and her head remained slightly lowered as if she was deep in thought. Behind them, two tall alien guards walked quietly, their silver armor catching the light. Erin kept glancing at them, but said nothing. His mind was still replaying the last few hours. The strange council meeting, the coded warnings, and the talk of war. He knew something big was about to happen. But Leora still had not told him everything. When they entered the main hall, Erin stopped. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows, and the floor was polished until it reflected the blue glow from the walls. In the center stood a long table shaped like a crescent moon. At the far end sat a group of alien leaders, their robes marked with silver patterns. One of them, an older alien with eyes that looked like shining glass, spoke first. Human Erin, you have walked into a turning point in our history. Your presence here is not chance. It is a thread in a pattern we did not see before. Erin stayed silent. He knew it was better to let them speak. Another leader leaned forward. Her voice was soft but carried across the room. Our enemy is near. They will strike soon. We must choose, defend the station or abandon it and hide among the outer worlds. Leora has told us you have ideas. Ways humans fight differently. Erin glanced at Leora. She looked at him with calm eyes, but he could see something hidden in them. Hope, maybe, or worry. I'm not a general, Erin finally said. But I know one thing. Running will only make them follow. If you want to end the threat, you have to face it on your terms, not theirs. The room fell silent. The leaders exchanged glances. Some looked uncertain, others thoughtful. One of the guards stepped forward. Human words are brave, but do you understand what their attack means? They do not leave survivors. Erin took a slow breath. I understand, but hiding isn't safety. You have ships, technology, numbers. You just need a plan that they won't expect. Humans survive because we adapt fast. If you give me access to your maps, I might be able to find a way. The older alien leader studied him for a long moment. Why would you risk your life for a people not your own? Erin thought about it. He could have said it was for survival, or for honor, but that wasn't the truth. He looked at Leora. Because some things are worth risking for. Leora's eyes softened, and she lowered her head slightly. The leaders whispered among themselves. Finally, the older one spoke again. Very well. We will hear your plan. Erin stepped forward. I need to see your star charts, your stations, weak points, and the paths the enemy usually takes. I think we can turn this place into a trap. Make it seem like you're retreating, but lead them into a narrow zone where their numbers won't matter. The council members listened carefully. Some took notes on small glowing tablets. When Erin finished, there was another pause. Then the female leader said, it could work, but it requires someone to act as bait, to draw the enemy into the trap. That person will be in danger before the rest can strike. Erin did not hesitate. I'll do it. Leora stepped forward sharply. No, you are not from here. This is not your fight to lead from the front. Erin met her gaze. It became my fight the moment I decided to stay. The leaders watched the exchange. Finally, the older one nodded. Then it is decided. We prepare the trap. The meeting ended, and the guards led Erin and Leora out into the hall. As they walked, Leora spoke in a low voice. You don't understand the risk. If you are caught, they will not show mercy. I know, Erin said, but I also know that if this works, your people will have a chance to live without running. They reached a balcony that looked out into open space. Stars shone like scattered diamonds, and the curve of a distant planet glowed faintly in the dark. The hum of the station filled the silence between them. Finally, Leora turned to him. Her eyes held both anger and something softer. You still haven't asked me again what you asked before. Erin blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? She stepped closer, her voice quiet. The question you asked about how I would react if you kissed me. Erin felt the moment grow still. He searched her eyes, unsure what to say. I thought you didn't want me to ask again. Her lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. Ask, and I will answer. Aaron looked at her for a long moment. The war, the danger, the trap, all of it seemed far away in that instant. If I kissed you, how would you react? Leora's gaze did not waver. I would not let you stop. For a moment, Aaron forgot how to breathe. The hum of the station seemed louder. She stepped back, her expression calm again. But first, we win the battle. Aaron nodded slowly. Then let's make sure we do. The stars beyond the balcony seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was watching. The plan was set. The trap would be prepared, and in the middle of it all, a human and an alien girl stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next. The stars outside the ship seemed brighter than usual. Aaron stood near the observation window, his hands resting on the glass. He could see the planet of Varelia growing smaller as the ship moved away. Behind him, Leora walked in quietly, her steps almost silent. You are leaving your home, Aaron said without turning. Are you sure about this? Leora stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the stars. I left my home the moment I decided to trust you. My people will survive without me for now. But you still have a fight to face. Aaron turned to her. And you're going to face it with me? She nodded. If I leave you now, your people might never get the help they need. My world owes you a debt. I owe you my life. That means I stand with you. They were headed toward Earth's defense fleet. The enemy was still out there, stronger than ever. The last report said that the enemy had captured several human colonies. Aaron knew the next attack could be Earth itself. For ours, they sat in the control room, studying enemy patterns. Leora explained the weak points of their ships, and Aaron showed her human battle plans. They began to realize that together, their knowledge formed a strategy neither side could have built alone. This will work, Aaron said, tracing the plan on the screen. But we'll need more than ships. We'll need unity. My people don't trust outsiders easily. Leora gave a small smile. Then let them see me fight for them. Let them see that I will not run. When they arrived at the human fleet station, the reaction was mixed. Soldiers stopped and stared at Leora. Some whispered, others stepped back in suspicion. The fleet commander, Captain Marek, met them at the docking bay. Aaron, you've been gone for months, and you bring her. He glanced at Leora with narrowed eyes. She saved my life more times than I can count, Aaron replied. She's here to help us win. The captain didn't look convinced, but he listened as they presented their plan. Leora spoke clearly, explaining how her people's sensors could detect enemy ships before they came out of warp. Aaron added how they could combine human firepower with Varelian technology. By the time they finished, the room was silent. Captain Marek leaned back in his chair. It's risky, but it might be our only chance. The days that followed were filled with preparation. Human engineers worked side by side with Leora to adapt alien devices to human ships. Aaron trained pilots on the new tactics. One night, while they were working late, Leora suddenly asked, Aaron, if we survive this, what will you do? He thought for a moment. I'll go back to my home colony, help rebuild, see the stars without worrying about war. And if you do not survive? She asked softly. Aaron looked at her seriously. Then I'll make sure I don't go down without giving everything I have. And I'll make sure you get home. She shook her head. If you fall, I stay. My place will be beside you until the end. The words stayed with Aaron all night. He knew she meant them. He also knew the battle ahead would test every promise they had made to each other. 2 days later, the fleet moved out. The enemy had been spotted near a human colony called Greypoint. It was a small mining world, but strategically important. If Greypoint fell, the path to Earth would be open. As the fleet entered position, Aaron and Leora stood in the command deck. The tension in the air was heavy. Ships floated in the black space. Around them, ready for war. Remember, Leora said, the enemy will strike fast. Do not wait for them to finish forming lines. Attack while they are still adjusting. Aaron gave the order. All ships, move to formation Delta. Engage on my mark. The enemy fleet appeared like shadows against the stars. They moved quickly. But this time the humans were ready. with Leora's sensors feeding real-time data. Human ships struck first. Explosions lit the void as enemy cruisers broke apart. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, Aaron felt hope. The combined strength of two worlds was turning the tide. As the fight raged on, Leora turned to him and said quietly, "When this is done, I will give you my answer." Aaron remembered the question he had asked her long ago, the one she had never truly answered. And in the middle of war, with stars burning around them, he realized her answer might change everything. The silence in the great hall felt heavy. The air was filled with tension as Rian stood at the center, his eyes fixed on Alara. Around them, the council of elders from her world sat in their tall silver chairs, watching without speaking. Every person in the room knew that whatever happened here would decide not only Rian's fate, but also the future of both worlds. Rian had traveled far with Alara, crossing dangerous places, facing creatures no human had ever seen, and standing against forces that tried to tear them apart. But now, the challenge was different. This was not about fighting or running. This was about trust and truth. One elder spoke in a deep voice, "Human Rian, your actions have changed the hearts of many here. But we must ask you one final question. If you were to stay in our world and be a part of our people, what is it you seek from the princess?" Rian did not answer right away. He glanced at Alara, who stood by his side. Her long teal hair shimmered under the light, and her soft natural beauty made his heart race. She met his gaze, and he saw the same mix of hope and fear in her eyes that he felt in his own chest. He took a breath and stepped forward. "I don't seek power. I don't seek riches. I don't even seek a title. I just want the chance to walk beside her, to see her smile when she is happy, to protect her when danger comes, and to learn about her world while sharing mine." A murmur spread among the elders. Some nodded in approval. Others whispered to each other. Alara's voice was steady but filled with emotion. "And I will answer the question you asked me before. The one you asked in the gardens that day. If you kissed me, how would I react?" She stepped closer to him, her hands clasped in front of her. "I would not push you away. I would not be afraid. I would close my eyes and let my heart answer for me." The hall went completely silent again. The elders watched, the guards at the door stood still. Rian's heart pounded. One of the oldest elders, a woman with silver markings on her skin, rose from her chair. "Then it is decided. The bond between you two is not one of mere chance. It is the bridge between our worlds. Human Rian, Princess Alara, you have our blessing to walk your paths together." Alara smiled softly, and for the first time since arriving in this place, Rian felt the weight on his shoulders lift. She reached out her hand, and he took it without hesitation. The council members stood, and the sound of their hands coming together in their tradition echoed through the hall. Outside, the city's towers lit up in celebration. Ships in the sky flashed their lights, and the sound of distant music began to rise. Later that night, away from the eyes of the council and the crowds, Rian and Alara stood on the balcony of the royal palace. The stars above were brighter than he had ever seen on Earth. The two moons of her world hung side by side, casting a silver glow on everything. Rian looked at her. "So this is how it ends?" he asked quietly. She shook her head with a small laugh. "No, Rian. This is how it begins." And standing there, under a sky filled with strange stars, Rian knew that whatever came next, whether it was peace, adventure, or danger, they would face it together. For the first time in his life, he felt that he was exactly where he was meant to be.